Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, a place where you can learn all kinds of amazing stuff without even trying as we explore the coolest, best looking, most interesting spots on the planet. Today's trip is going to be over Lubbock, Texas, as I attempt to prove once again that there is no such thing as a boring town on our channel. And I think it'll be just short enough to squeeze into a lunch break flight, which, if I can pull it off, will be less than 15 minutes in the air. And since this is probably the most American town in the whole country, of course we're going to be flying the flag. And that was actually a bit of a safety precaution. I don't think folks take too kindly to suspicious aircraft out here, so if you dress it up like this, you can pretty much do whatever the heck you want. And we are taking the Mini today. I was going to take the H-125, but there's some spots that'll probably be better to see out of each side of the plane. So, or the helicopter, I guess, so I figured this would be a little bit better. 125 had an even better flag livery, if you can believe that. Let's look at the Google map real quick while this baby gets warmed up. So there's Texas, and here's Lubbock. Talk about the middle of nowhere. Look at that. They got their one major road running down there. This is Interstate 27, which isn't really interstate because it just goes from Lubbock up to Amarillo. That's going to be right next to the airport, or Amarillo if you're from Texas. And here's where we're leaving from. This gray area here is the airport. We're going to come right down here, just cruise around the inside of this circle, and pretty much everything inside of this is photogrammetry, which is going to be just fantastic. There are 2 add-ons available for this airport. I'll tell you about those in just a second. But that's going to be it. Then we're going to come on back in, and there is plenty of stuff to see out here, and it looks really, really cool. So this airport is Preston Smith International. I'm just waiting for the props to get it to full speed there. And it opened in 1937 as South Plains Airport, and yep, that was right before World War II, so you know what happened to it during the war. This one became a training field, and not for regular pilots. It was for glider pilots, not the big long wing one like they have in the sim, but the type that they would tow behind a plane and then drop to land troops behind enemy lines. And they've got a big place called the Silent Wings Museum, which is right underneath a tower that we'll see when we come back in on the other side of the airport. And there is a pretty good freeware add-on for this, and I'm going to link it. This is a payware add-on, if you can believe it. I actually paid for an airport. But it added a, looks like a DC-3 right in front of the museum, which I thought was pretty cool, because before that it was just a big shadow. And it cleaned up the runways a lot, and it was on sale for like $6 at Orbix, so I went ahead and got it since we're going to be out here. Only issue is a little bit of popping, as you can see there. It's pretty performance heavy, so I've got everything turned down. We're in a chopper, so that's already going to eat up some performance. Alright, off to the left there's something else that was pretty cool that I only found in this add-on. They got one of those firefighting training planes over there. See that burned up thing over there? That's pretty cool. And I turned all the static aircraft off, so everything you see comes with this add-on, because the sim was adding like Broncos and 127s up at the gate. I don't know why it's doing that, so I just had to turn them off. There were a few of those default looking jetliners, but everything else just looked ridiculous, so I turned them off. But the terminals look pretty good. We'll just peel off here to the left once you get to the runway, so you can take a look at that. And we'll just keep on coming up to speed. And you remember in that last flight or the one before that I said I wanted to see a working landfill in the sim? Well, that's one directly off to the front of us on the right there. But it's the default scenery. I want to find one that's got photogrammetry and see what those look like. Alright, I guess we can do this. I mean, the runway goes right over these runways anyway. Alright, so right down there to our right, forgive me for not using my pointer yet, I've got to use both hands to fly this thing. See that plane down there in front of it? That's where the museum is. And we'll see it from the other side as we come back in, because we're going to land at those little helipads right there. And this thing dead ahead of us is a National Guard station, and you'll see all kinds of military-looking vehicles popping in as we fly over. And when we look at the little nav map at the end, you'll see that I drew the destination airport off in that direction, because even though you can see it's really, really flat out here, there's like a little canyon with rivers and reservoirs running through it. That's pretty cool, even with the default scenery. So if you don't want to come back here like we're going to do, you can take the flight as I'm going to load it up in the video description, which will bring it in the little nav map, and it will have you land over at that little area by the canyon. There's an airport over there. Some trailer parks. This is tornado country too, so you better watch out if you don't have a house that's bolted to the ground pretty well out here. Got some nice golf courses over there, and you can see where the photogrammetry is versus the default stuff, because the photogrammetry is a little more brownish looking. The other stuff's a little bit more olive drab. Alright, let me just get trimmed out, and then I'll be able to point at things. Okay, so right up here, we're flying by this very intentionally because this is a Purina factory, or mill, I guess you'd call it. The Google thing said it was a Purina mill. And when we fly by it, you'll even see that little red checkerboard thing. You see it right there on the side? I just thought that was fantastic. All right, I didn't check my barrow, and it's probably not quite right. There we go. I'm going to try to get up to around 4,500 feet. Look at this. See the checkerboard on there? How sweet is that? This area over here is called Prairie Dog Town. It's a big prairie dog park, and they got prairie dogs living in the wild all over the place out here, but if you want to go there, you can go and even feed them and everything, I think. Which is pretty cool, right in the middle of this golf course over here. It's a pretty good sized place. This is it right here. Cotton growing areas in the country out here. I would have thought this was all cattle and stuff like that, but I'm guessing they just grow cotton out here. And I didn't know what they really meant by contiguous. I wasn't sure if they meant what I thought that it meant, and it turns out they did. Just all touching one another. Alright, so this area out here, which unfortunately did not get modeled properly, is called the American Windmill Museum. Windmill Museum, sorry. That's how we say it in Texas, windmill. Because I lived out here for a while, I know that. And they have little windmills popping up all over the place out here. They got 160 of them, 60 of which are still actually working and pumping water. And you can see them on the satellite map, but this whole area right here is the complex. And then they got a gigantic 3-blade set just laying on the ground over here. It's the biggest I've ever seen. It's huge. But that is the largest windmill collection in the world down there. So if you're out here, be sure to check that out. And I don't know what river this is running through here because I couldn't find it. They just had the names of all these lakes. And this one is called Historic Dunbar Lake. And I couldn't find out what's historic about it either, unfortunately. But they got a really nice little dam over on this side, so we're going to come around this side to check it out. And then right over here is Lubbock Cemetery, permanent residence of Charles Hardin Holly, who was born out here in 1936. And he enjoyed some celebrity in the music business before tragically dying in a plane crash in 1959 at just 22 years of age. Most people today probably recognize him by his stage name of Buddy Holly. And Kenneth Copeland is also from Lubbock. I feel like I should mention that. He's a big televangelist. But he's still alive and not nearly as cool as Buddy Holly. Alright, look at that little dam down there. You see that? Because it's photogrammetry, it looks really nice. Alright, I'm going to try to adjust my collective just a little bit here so we can get up to the max cruise speed of around 100 knots. Let's make this turn first. Look at that dam. It's beautiful. Not huge, but it looks fantastic. And you guys know, if you look at all these buildings down here, what I love the most about this? Rusty and dirty. Everything's rusty and dirty. Love it. Absolutely love it. Look how good that looks. So Buddy's grave is right around this area right down here. And I looked for any other famous people that might be buried in there, but I couldn't find any. But Buddy's a pretty big deal out here. Alright, we're going to come around this way because they got something called the Lone Star Amphitheater, which is this place right here. Which actually gets some pretty big acts. I saw their website. It's not a huge place. But this is a college town, so I imagine they get plenty of crowds in there. Look at that train yard, too. But right on the top of this over here, you're going to see a big faded Texas flag on the top of that building, which is just awesome. And there's the Windmill Museum, the other side of it, right in front of us. Look at all those trains. Just beautiful. It's a little bit breezy. We got about a 6-knot headwind right now. Not too bad. We should be able to get her down just fine. Look at that. There's that flag. You see it? So there's the star, and then there's where the 2 stripes would be. How cool is that? So the amphitheater, I guess you sit up here. The stage is right here on this side of it. So you'd watch it looking this way. And then right up here is the Buddy Holly Center, which has all kinds of his memorabilia and stuff in it. And they built that in an old train station that was built in the 1920s before converting it to Buddy's place. And his birth house is somewhere way out here, but it looks like somebody's actually living in it now. They did have a Google marker on it, but they had like a trampoline and an above-ground pool and stuff in the backyard, so I don't think it's a museum. I don't know, maybe they're charging the kids to go jump on the trampoline. Not a whole lot to see out here. You can see how far the photogrammetry goes, and the whole area is just absolutely gorgeous. But not enough to see out there to go fly out there and check it out. For those of you outside the U.S., you're wondering what a Whataburger is? It's just a burger joint. Okay, this whole area over here is Texas Tech University, and it is a gigantic campus. There's a big stadium, so we're going to cruise around this way over here and then come right back up there, and then we'll be coming back into our airport. Because this is about all there is to see for Lubbock. But this is a public school. It was opened in 1923, and they have a current enrollment of about 40,000. You'd think it'd be even more than that with a campus that big. And considering this whole town has a population of less than 300,000, I think it's like 263,000. All those students bring the average age of Lubbock to 30 years old. Alright, so this is part of the campus too. They called it a water park. It's just got a big pool. They do have a lazy river, so maybe that qualifies as a water park. And right down here is their greenhouse center, their horticulture center, which is pretty cool. They got a bunch of arenas out here, a very, very large tower. And then over here is the big hospital, and see that right there? There's a little helipad. It's not marked in the sim, but you can go land on there if you want to. And of course I did that. Alright, we'll circle around this way, get a nice look at the stadium, which looks great. The Red Raiders. And this thing right here doesn't look like that anymore, so I don't know when they changed it, but both on Little NavMap and the Google Map, it has a big flat roof on it. It looks like it might be retractable now. But I suppose that's what it used to look like. The baseball field looks fantastic. They got a big parking garage over here. And you can see they got a billboard or something on the side of it. I didn't go down there to fly close enough to see if you could read what was on it. But look at that stadium. Beautiful, beautiful. All this is part of the campus out here. And they had an F5 tornado, I think, in 1970. And whatever the tallest building is down here, I can't recall the name of it, managed to survive it, but it wiped out pretty much all the rest of the town. And they haven't had another really big, really devastating one in a while, but they do have quite a few tornadoes out here each year. All this flat land. Alright, so if you go down that way, you'll see where the big canyon is, which is really cool looking. And it really starts to get a lot more rough, the terrain does, once you get off the plain right here. The plains. Okay, let's come back around this way. Head towards our Purina building again. And we got a couple more little dams along here. There's one there, and then there's one on this side right here, which you really can't see. Let's see if I can yaw ourselves enough to see it. Now it's kind of hidden by those trees down there. Alright, so as we come back in, a little bit about the history of Lubbock. Before white settlers arrived out here and founded the town in 1867, this was all Comanche territory. And before then, people had been living out here since... Go ahead, take your guess. Yep, around 10,000 BC. Which, as I mentioned in that last flight, seems to be when everyone decided to move to America. Or what would become America. North American continent. Look at that down there. Big piles of metal and stuff just rusting away. Absolutely beautiful. Alright, we're going to come down because I want to do a low pass by the Silent Wings Museum. Start trimming back some. See if we can dodge the wind coming in here. And I couldn't figure out why the first European Americans came out here, because the first trains didn't come through until 1909, which was about 40 years later. And I would have assumed before I found out about the cotton thing that it was cattle ranchers, and I don't know when they got the cotton fired up out here. But cowboying is a big deal out here too. And then the university popped up a few years after the train came through, and that's pretty much what's been driving this town ever since. And they've got quite a few smaller Christian colleges out here too. This is really the beating heart of Bible country out in these parts. And they did have a noteworthy incident out here in August of 1951 when a whole bunch of people with some pretty credible credentials saw a formation of glowing objects, not of military or civilian origin, flying overhead. And that sighting would go down in history as the Lubbock Lights and was one of the first mass UFO sightings reported in the U.S. And after a thorough investigation, the military concluded it was likely moths reflecting the town's freshly installed streetlights, which sounds very convincing to me. Alright, so there's the National Guard station again. And we're going to see how close we can get to the other side of the museum over here on this side, which again is right underneath where the tower is. And then we'll swing back around and see if we can plant this baby. So there's the landfill up there on our left, which looks like it's probably not very impressive. One of these days we're going to find one that is within the bounds of photogrammetry and see how it looks. Alright, let's just see how aggressively we can fly this thing as we come by, just to have a little fun, because this thing's made to be aggressive. Yeah, look at that. We got some tiling and stuff over there on the left. Couldn't see that when we were flying by before. Okay, so you can see the DC-3 parked out there, and that thing is all rusted over and stuff too. It looks really cool. And it's quite detailed once you get close to it. And right along here, you can see if you get close enough, the name of the museum is written too, which is really neat. Look at that. Looks like a DC-3 to me. What do you guys think? Man, a lot of popping out here. I'm not complaining because it was a $7 add-on, but I mean, if you're going to take the performance hit, that's why I don't get the airports. I mean, they take up so much data. You only see them for a second, and it can affect the performance of a whole flight. So I just really don't get the point of that unless it's somewhere you're flying constantly. But the default airport didn't look great at all. So what I would do if I was you, if you really want to just improve that a little bit, is throw in the freeware add-on, which again is pretty good. And if you are flying out here a lot and you're taking a plane with a little bit less performance drag, you could probably get by with this one a little bit better. And if you guys know how to adjust the sim so that it's not putting tiny little planes at the gates, let me know that too, because I'd certainly like to fix that. It just looked ridiculous. Of course, adding all those planes in the ground traffic just hurt the performance even more. Alright, so let's see if we can bring this into one of those H's over there. And then we'll take a look at little NavMap. It is nice having some static planes of any kind on the ground, though. As you guys know, most of our airports, I keep all of it turned off, so we don't get to see that very often. It does breathe a little life into these places. Alright, so let's see what we got out here. Some small private jets, a couple trainers over there, some Cessnas it looks like. Probably exactly what you'd expect to see out here. And down we go. Ease it on down. Alright. So shutting it off is pretty easy. We'll just cut the fuel, hit the rotor brake. And luckily you don't have to hold on to the rotor brake on this one. It'll just stay down there, which is nice, because that takes a while. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Let me just get rid of our trail so we can see everything a little bit better. So here's the airport here. There's another one over here, but if you're in a helicopter, it's a little bit of a hike to come all the way out here. And again, if you're flying a plane, you're probably going to want to adjust this a little bit. We took some really tight turns out here. But if you wanted to continue on from where we left to come back up north to the airport, here's where that canyon is. Look at this. How neat is that? Kind of surprising just to come upon this after all this flat land out here. This thing looks pretty good out here, whatever kind of mine they're running out there. And the airport's not too far away. It's a pretty quick trip if you want to cruise down there if you're taking a plane. And this dam, despite being default, doesn't look all that bad, but it's a really neat looking little area out here. They got little docks going out in the water and everything. Pretty cool. I didn't see any leisure boats before, and I did have them turned on. This one looked just okay. That one looked a little bit better. But again, it's not photogrammetry, so it is what it is. But that's a cool flight. If you want to come out there, stretch it out just a little bit if you have a long lunch break. So as we came on down here, here's where the Purina Mills is, and we could see the checkerboard on the side of that, which was awesome. And here's Prairie Dog Town. Look at that place. And man, I can remember when we lived in Arlington, those things were all over the place. And I really like watching them too. They're a lot of fun. Very cute little rascals. All right, here's the Agriculture Museum, which didn't quite look like that, I don't think, in the sim. I didn't see these circular things on there, but maybe I was too busy focusing on this, which is the Windmill Museum. Look at this place. Look how big that is. So they have an electric one hooked up over here, which I'm surprised they even have electric wind out here. They have plenty of wind, but that's the only one they got anywhere. Out here, all you need is a double helping of hard work and effort with a side of freedom. That's what powers this town. But look at all these other ones out here. You can see little shadows form. And they said all these outside are actually actively pumping water right now, which is just cool. But look at how big that thing is. I mean, that thing is probably, if you stood it on its end, as tall as that whole thing right there. Ooh, even a Dutch one. Look at that. Awesome. Okay, so here's the historic Dunbar Lake. Whatever is historic about that, I really don't know. That dam looked phenomenal. Here's where Buddy's buried, right down in there. And let's see, here's where the Lone Star Amphitheater is. And look at that. It looked just like that in the sim. You could just barely see that flag on the top of it. And what's so awesome about that is it's just there for us. You can't see that from the ground because it's up on the roof, which is just great. And then here's the Buddy Holly Center. And I was trying to think where the train platform would be when this was originally a train station. I'm guessing just because of the way all the streets are laid out, because these kind of end up here once you get downtown, it probably ran right through here like that. I bet that was the original railroad that was coming through here. And they have a statue of Buddy Holly right there, but I didn't get close enough to see if we could spot that or not. And the Whataburger is right there. There it is. Well, I don't know why we're getting some slow depixelation here, but that's it. We could see that in the sim. Fantastic. And then here's the campus of Texas Tech. Look how big this place is. So over here, it looks like they probably have some student housing and things like that. This is where most of the school buildings are. And then over here is their quote-unquote water park down here. And you can see they got their little lazy river running down there. Awesome. And then here's what the greenhouses were over here. And then right up here is where the hospital is. Wait, where are we? Where are we? Got to back up a little bit. Here it is. And there's that helipad, which you can put it down there if you want to. That hospital looked fantastic too. And then we came on back around, took a look at the stadium, which looked great. The parking garage looked great. And if you want to try to see what's on the side of that thing, you'd have to come down right in between here. It's right on this edge right there. Let me know if you fly close enough to see it, if that says something you can read. Here's another dam up here. And up here, they have a big archaeological park, which was outside of the range of the photogrammetry. So it didn't look all that great. I think this is it right here, where you can also dig up fossils. If you saw that Cincinnati flight, they had a place like that up there. And then we came on for our landing, and that is it, guys. Lubbock, Texas. If you guys are interested, this will be going up on Sunday, which will be tomorrow for me, but tomorrow night I'm going to be flying around some. If you're a member of our Discord server, if you're not and you feel like joining that, the link for that will be also in the video description. But if you guys want to fly along for some test flights I have planned tomorrow night, let me know. We've also got our Budapest flight coming up, the Panhandle of Florida is coming up, and lots of islands and volcanoes that I've already been scoping out. So I can't wait to see. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see you in the skies. Later.